Let's jump quickly to our next topic, talking about Australia banking. Let's talk specifically about ANZ Bank. ANZ kills cash. That's right. At ANZ Bank, a report came out recently saying that ANZ Bank, which is one of the biggest big four banks in Australia, we call it the big four banks, they have stopped handling cash at some branches. Now, you can still go to an ATM and take money out and all that sort of stuff, but they've stopped handling cash over the counter, which has actually brought a lot of uproar. And I'm like, we don't use cash anymore. We very rarely ever use cash. Do you want to, if I'm just looking at this from a business perspective, seeing them, they've got to get cash trucks that come and now make sure that they've got cash in the branch, that they have to open and close each till and count it in and count it out every day just for a few people that are bringing cash. You can do everything through the ATM, which is just outside the branch, open 24 hours and much quicker than standing and waiting in line for a bank teller. So I kind of see the business efficiencies of it, and but there's some uproar because they're kind of like, I think everyone's starting to feel like this is our trend towards a cashless society. And there's been this uproar of people claiming that they want to boycott ANZ and go and use one of the other banks because we want to teach them, because they say that there's fears that the vulnerable community members will be affected. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but I kind of think that if you leave ANZ to go to another bank to do this, like, what are you going to do when that bank does it? Because let's be honest, it's inevitable. We are going to be a cashless society at some point, whether it's in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's going to happen. So are you just going to keep jumping from bank to bank until you're in the last bank that actually does cash? Dr. Rod, what does this move signify?
Oh, look, I think they've done a business case and just decided that it doesn't make business sense to have some of their branches with cash, because, as you say, it takes a lot to manage cash. I used to work as a bank teller. I know.
Oh, really?
Long time ago. But I was a bank teller for a while, and it takes a bit of managing. There's no doubt about that, especially if you get to the end of the day and you're a bit short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I understand why they do it, but I just wonder, actually, when they did their business case, was part of the business case, hey, how will the public receive this?
Mm-hmm.
Because if there actually is a backlash and you lose customers, well, that might not do any favours for the bottom line as well. So I do wonder how far they went in terms of developing the business case. But I would also observe that the ANZ and probably other banks now have, I suppose you could call them little booth banks in shopping centres.
Yes. Yeah.
Now they're cashless. They will usually have an ATM, and sometimes they'll have a money counting machine attached to the ATM, so you can make deposits and you can make withdrawals at the ATM. So,
well, I mean, there's a lot of those isolated ATMs that are at those booths that just don't take deposits anyway.
No, but look, I think it's legitimate to worry about people who are not used to doing digital banking, older folk, for example, maybe some people who are disabled in one way or another may not easily be able to use ATMs. Some people don't trust the money counting machines, although I've found them to be very, very accurate, even with pretty crumpled notes. They're pretty good at recognising the. In fact, I've never had a mistake, and I've used the automatic machines quite a bit. I don't really like using them because it's inconvenient for me. It's a bit of a hassle, but I do nevertheless, and I found those machines to be very accurate. Because the other issue is people are saying, oh, well, they're pushing us to become a cashless society and they'll have all this control, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I would say that's a legitimate fear. or a worry. I just don't think we should live in fear.
Yes.
My God is looking after me. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst that anybody can do with me is kill me, and I still
Yes.
win. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm just not going to ruin my life by worrying about all of this. Look, I mean, I hear people, great leaders, Christian leaders whom I respect, are saying, well, it's all the mark of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as soon as I hear people saying, I'll say, now I'd really like to sit down and listen to your coherent understanding of end times,
Mm-hmm.
because I've got a particular approach to understanding end times. Other people have different approaches, and I think that matters. So it really, and I always want to know, have you got a coherent? I don't care if you don't agree with me in terms of timelines and so on, but have you got a coherent view? I think we should be very careful about equating what we observe with any particular incident that is going to happen during the tribulation period and so on.
Uh-huh.
So, I'm a little bit wary when I hear people, oh, mark of the beast. Maybe, but that came up with credit cards way back in the 1970s and so on and so forth.
Yes.
The point is, technologies that have been developing over a long period of time, and they have potential to be outworked for evil rather than for good. And yes, you can fit many of them into some of the prophetic words or prophetic passages in Revelation and in the book of Daniel as well. And I understand why people look at it and say, man, the end is coming, or the end is here. But again, I refuse to live in fear. And I do have a particular view about the historical sequence of the end times. I don't have fear, because I believe that the Word of God teaches that we Christians will not experience God's wrath. So we'll either be taken out and we won't experience the tribulation period, or if we're on earth when it happens, just as God protected Israel from the plagues that Pharaoh was subject to, God will protect us. Otherwise, he's telling lies in the Bible, and I don't believe he is. So that's why I don't fear. So essentially, we'll either be taken out before it all happens, or if we're still here, God will protect us. We're not going to go through that time of wrath, whether or not we're on earth. And I can show you well-respected systematic theologies which go through this in very great detail. So I don't worry too much about that. I agree with you that eventually we will go cashless. I'm practically cashless myself. I do. Look, I had a $100 note in my wallet for over 6 months. I never have more than about $100 in my wallet, and I hardly ever use it. Now, I know some people who still prefer to do nearly everything in cash, and I have no disrespect for them whatsoever. And some of them will say it's because they don't want to be sort of drawn into this vortex of a cashless society. I respect that. But I do think that ultimately, and it will take a while, it may take another 20 years, that there probably won't be any cash except in museums, and it will all be electronic.
Yeah. That's been one of the big shocks that I have had moving to the Dominican Republic. Is in Australia, I wasn't only cashless, I was walletless. I had Apple Pay on my phone. I had my driver's license on my phone because I was in New South Wales driver's license. So it was a digital license, and I literally could leave home with my key and my phone, and I had everything. Moving here, they don't do Apple Pay here, so I have to have that. They're cash. Everything's cash here. So if you don't have cash on you, there is almost once a day there'll be something that I'll be caught up with that if I didn't have cash on me, I wouldn't be able to do. And so, yeah, it's interesting, to see how advanced Australia is in that, and yet people are still afraid of what's next. And like you're saying, once again, Dr. Rod, is like, let's not live in fear. it's going to happen. These things happen. Let's be in control. Let's have wisdom. But I think one of the good lessons here was what you said is about when we as business owners or as leaders make decisions, we obviously make a business decision. We get someone to give us all the facts and figures, but do we take into account the effect on the actual customers, the people that God has called us to serve? Yes, it's about the bottom line, but remember, God has called us to serve people, not a bottom line. And so we as leaders do have to manage those things. We have to manage the difference between, yes, we have to be profitable and what we were talking about before, being financially surplus, but also looking after those people. Are those people that we are called to serve going to be disadvantaged, going to be put out, are going to be, I mean, not just their noses out of joint, because sometimes you're just going to put some noses out of joint moving your business forward. But are you leaving the core of your business, and are you moving away from what it is that God's actually called you to do in your business? So that's actually a really good point, Rod. Is let's make sure as leaders we are taking into consideration the bottom line, but also the people and how they will be impacted, and let's not allow that to prevent us from moving forward and advancing our businesses and our technologies and the way we do things. Yes, we've got to improve, always improve, but make sure we're taking our customers and clients along that journey with us rather than just cutting them off anyway. Hey, you've just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership podcast. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If it challenged your leadership or inspired you in some way, put a comment below. And if you want to watch the full episode or more content like this, check out our channel. And hey, consider subscribing while you're there.